What's spooking health insurers that has Centene down double digits today? And can Apple's F1 blockbuster jumpstart the stock? We've got all the answers and more on today's Rebel's Edge.
All right, here we go. As promised, we got Justin Nugent with us today. John's out. John's traveling and looking forward to that long weekend. And boy, he's made it even a little bit longer. I guess he's going to have a lot of fun, Justin. I don't know. No, he's always attentive, but I know he's looking forward to it and being up there in Michigan. I think is where he's going to be. But so should be kind of fun. How's everything out in Hawaii, man? Are you all doing good?
Beautiful every single day.
It is the most unbelievable place. And I swear to you, man, if my wife would allow us, because it's in us, I would be there too. I just absolutely love it over there. All right, let's just jump into it. We've got a lot of stuff to cover and some really fun stuff as well. And we got some cool sports stuff we're going to kick around. And Justin's always good for the sports because I always try to tilt it a little bit towards Hawaii a little bit and try to figure out a few things. We'll see what happens there. So let's start off with the macro minute, and I'm just going to give you this. I think it's amazing to me watching how the market takes in data, it digests the data, and it doesn't seem to matter as much, at least on the negative side, when it's negative, and it certainly does give us a boost on the positive side when it's positive. And it's absolutely amazing how that's been going on in the rotation that we've had for the most part over the last few trading sessions, at least, where a lot of tech getting sold, but you're seeing a heck of a lot of the financials and industrials and other parts of the market where we're seeing some pretty nice lifts. So a little bit of a movement, but at least today, the NASDAQ's actually looking pretty strong today.
Yeah, for sure. We got a Vietnam trade deal out. That's good. Saw Nike tank for a second, bounce back. That's good. Saw ADP come out, and we shed 33,000 jobs. First decline since March 2023, significantly below expectations of a gain of 95K. I'm going to quote John Najarian because I feel the exact same way from the email that we got. But Jay Powell's data driven, right? He better move. Right? Hey, July. Hey, right?
Well, I like what you're saying, but it's not right because Jay Powell continues to kind of push this whole thing back a little bit, right? I mean,
yes,
that has been the mode. And I was backing him up when he said it's about the data because we hadn't had the data, but now that we do have the data, what gives? And if you look at the CME tool right now, it is not tilting at all that we are going to be a cut in July. So It is what it is. We'll see. Maybe things change. Maybe he starts to lean into it a little bit more. How about these fantastic futures? I'll tell you what, the 10-year has been absolutely amazing because in January it was at a 4.8, and now here we are. We sit right around call it a 4.29 for the 10-year. I think that says a lot about where we are from the market perspective. But on top of that, how about the 30-year mortgage now sitting at the lowest level since April? So are we seeing a little bit more activity there? Yeah, we are. And that was something that was reported today as well. The applications are rising and that type of thing. So maybe at some point in time, we're going to start seeing the housing markets come back, to some degree. That should be interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. For mine, I just want to point out Ethereum just starting to kind of catch a bid here after a long slumber. They're up like almost 4% today. I'd keep an eye on not Ethereum, but stocks that are tied to it. We're seeing some really crazy moves out of names that start to say, hey, we want to buy a bunch of Ethereum. The other day we saw BMNR be up like, 600% on the day or something like that.
Unreal.
If you can figure out what the next thing of that variety will be, whether that's when Solana ETFs hit or whatever, you could end up with a pretty cool speculative trade.
Well, let's jump into our stocks now. We've got 4 of them like we always do, but Centene is the first one. And I find it really interesting because they had to withdraw from the 2025 guidance that they were giving for their earnings, right? And the reduction is coming from the fact that they have multiple things. Affordable Care Act is one of them that absolutely they needed to make some adjustments. And those adjustments, Justin, were absolutely scary what they were coming out with. They basically said that the transfer is a reduction by $1.8 billion. Well, that's going to send a stock lower no matter what stock it is. And that's exactly what's happened today with Centene. This thing has dropped all the way down and established new 52-week lows today, 35.18, I believe. So interesting. I consider this a no touch. I don't like what's going on. I see what the reason behind it, of course, and it makes some sense. But when you look at 2025, and that's going to be down by a decline of 56%, and 2026 is still another decline of about 44%. That doesn't sound very good for me, and I'm going to stay away from this one.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. There are a lot of no touches out there. It's a great way to put it. I wouldn't short it right now. I wouldn't buy it right now. But you know what I do think was interesting is the spread effect that this had to some other names like Oscar. Oscar sell-off actually grabs my attention. Unlike its peers, they have zero Medicaid risk and a loyal base of true believers. The bull case here is actually pretty strong in my view. Shares are sitting on multi-year volume support. It's kind of, to me, looks like a textbook, dip your toe in, buy the dip setup. I would not be surprised if Oscar snaps back hard with some real force, especially given some of the retail strength that's also behind it. But CNC, no shot.
I hear you. I'm with you. And I look at Apple, and this one, you and I have been a little bit more bearish probably on this one of late than most everybody else. And I think for all the right reasons. I continue to feel that way, and sort of parsing through different news stories. This one's a positive, however, today. And they're talking about the affiliation with F1 globally. 144 million bucks is what they brought in at the box office. That's all great. And then all of a sudden, Jeffries decides to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to upgrade these guys on what? On the F1? Really? Maybe that's the case. I find that very interesting. But they're going to a hold, and they've got their price target. Now, this is where it kind of lands where you and I kind of lean on this one, because they did raise it. It was from 170 to 188. Well, the stock's trading about 212. So I would just say this. They aren't exactly as bullish as people might think, the fact that they jumped up to a hold. This thing still has a lot to prove to all of us. And, the issues with China is really where it stands the tallest, I think. We've got to figure out how that's going to work, because we've got too many of those phones, 80% or whatever it is, being built in China. I don't see how that's a good thing, and that's not something you can change overnight.
Yeah, I completely agree. Possibility of a foldable iPhone. Maybe we add Siri AI, an F1 movie. Feels like junk food to me. Like quick sustenance for a short-term pop, a little bit for the trader base, but nothing that makes you really say, wow, this makes a better investment than other names in mega cap tech, than NVIDIA, which leads the world in AI, than Microsoft, which is trying to come up with a 1 million qubit quantum chip, than Meta, which half the world uses in some way. Honestly, it's really the opposite situation, in my view, to Tesla, which we're about to talk about, which I would only be investing in rather than trading. But honestly, I think Apple kind of lost the plot here of innovating.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I thought they were great. Talked about services all the time on television and how big that was, and it turned out to be even bigger than probably I imagined. And then the next thing, and the next thing. But there hasn't been a next thing. And the foldable phone, I'm not sure that's a next thing either. So, I mean, is it interesting? Is it kind of, interesting? Is it sort of cool? Yeah, it is. But is that something everybody's really in desire of? Because I've seen folding phones for a while now. I don't really see them out anywhere other than Best Buy. Oh, is that a flip phone or a folding phone? Oh, that's absolutely outstanding. All right, let's just jump into Tesla. So Tesla, just yesterday we were hearing, and John and I talked about this on the Rebel's Edge. We were hearing about, wow, it's going to be about a 19% decline on the deliveries. This is JP Morgan talking, not us. And I'm sitting there going, holy smokes, well, that sounds pretty awful. Well, as it turns out, they were about as dead wrong as you could get. I mean, what they did miss by the numbers, but they still delivered 384,000 vehicles in Q2. So I don't know what to say about the JP Morgan analyst and some of the predictions there as far as the deliveries are concerned, but they do have earnings coming on July 23rd for Tesla. The stock has bounced back a little bit. It's up there at 313. Would they like to be a heck of a lot higher and closer to the 52-week highs? Of course they would. But there's been a lot of ups and downs going on with Tesla. But I think yesterday they were pressing on it pretty hard, and now today they're starting to lift it up nicely. So I'm more on the lifting up side of it because I think since Elon is back and he's in charge, I think that changes a lot of the dynamic of Tesla in a very positive way. So I'm still far more bullish on Tesla.
Me too. So about JP Morgan, yeah, everything they say always seems to be just way more bearish on the economy than it needs to be. So that's what I would partially chalk this up to. And then in Tesla, yeah, I love it for the long term for sure. I love the robotics story. I love the robotaxi future story. The widespread adoption is great. The acceptance of Cybertrucks as a sort of luxury vehicle was something that I didn't necessarily expect, but is really cool. What I don't love is the reality show that got renewed for a second season that I didn't subscribe to, where we're watching this battle between Musk and Trump constantly unfold. Makes it really hard for me to want to trade it necessarily. It isn't that there isn't money to be made here. If you bought the dip yesterday, you crushed it. I'm sure shorts got nailed. But I just think other names like the miners that we're about to discuss, which we've been seeing a ton of UOA in, and which have been cheaper and more nimble, are just a better trading tool. It just feels like there's better things to trade right now for me. But investing, I do love it, and this is great for the investing thesis.
Yep, fully agree with you on that. And when he says UOA, unusual option activity for everybody, in case they don't know what that is. All right, Cipher Mining. Now, this one's pretty daggone interesting. You just teased that. They actually exceeded their guidance. So earlier we talked about Centene and the fact that they had to lower their guidance, withdraw their guidance. Now we're talking about a company that actually is exceeding their guidance for the Q2 of 2025. New mining, they've got all these different things that are going on. They just talked about how many Bitcoins that they were able to mine, 160 of those. It's a little bit off of what they did in May, but nonetheless, it's pretty interesting. You know, there's some pretty decent short interest here as well, about call it anywhere between 12 and 17%. And the stock is up about 5% today. I actually would have expected the stock maybe to be even a higher than this. I would have expected maybe like a 10% move because this sounds like pretty damn good news. They've got some pretty large shorts. They do have to wrestle with all the time this cash burn. They have a pretty high cash burn given all the other metrics that they've got. But what do you see in this one and this sort of space right now? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I see a really, really great trading tool, to be honest. So we had some UOA here. I think that's working out really well. But we also had UOA in Marathon, which Mara's up more than 10% right now, which is great. We had, I believe, all the way out in December UOA and Riot. They're up like 7% today. I love that story a lot as well. I think that it's just a great way to trade some high beta names. And just more broadly, I think it's just good. Like yesterday when we see casinos having good news about Macau, and then we see the spillover into hotels, into airlines. I think that says something about sentiment. When we see something like Cipher having good news today, and this huge spillover with this big rally in Mara and Riot, I think it says something good about sentiment. I think it means that we might be out for now, tepidly, from the sell the news variety of sentiment trading that we've kind of been seeing maybe 3 months ago.
I got one last stock that we got to talk about. You brought it up. I've been rolling in this thing, and for people who don't understand that, you're buying an option. It performs very nicely. You sell that one and you roll up to another strike. I've been doing that for a while now, and in Robinhood, and Hood has been an absolute freak show. I tell anybody and everybody, you got to keep an eye on this one. This one has been a stock that has been absolutely bottom left to the upper right. The graph is going like this. They're absolutely incredible. Does it go up every single day? No. Does it go up probably 4 days out of 5? Probably pretty close. I mean, it's been on an unbelievable run all the way up and through $100. So what do you have to say about this one? Because I know you're very interested and you're focused on this one a lot.
Yeah, lately I am for sure. And I always tell people you don't have to like or use the brokerage to want to trade this particular name. It's completely uncorrelated to whether or not you try and make money off this thing. So in the roundup, we have been trading the hell out of this. Full disclosure, I mean, we had leaps, I believe, but we definitely had 85 straight calls, and stock was at about 71 a few weeks ago. Those were expiring on the 3rd, and I think they were like $1. So those are up a ton. We talked briefly about the 115 strike calls that were bought, which even though we didn't get up there, for those who don't know, in cases where you see a really big pop in a stock, these far out of the money options, which are trading for like 7 cents, these can really, really bloat, which in this case they did. I think those made it over $1 if I recall, I believe. I didn't take the 115s, but I was also long Hood, and just really, really killer story. Part of the reason why they're rallying right now is something really interesting that they're doing, I think, where they're tokenizing the stocks of these private companies like OpenAI and SpaceX for Europe. I think people expect that that's going to be a great trial run for the US. And there's a lot of people out here who would want to buy, who would want to get exposure to those types of private names, which they probably can't or don't know how to or don't want to through some of the other private exchanges. And for what that means, that's basically, if you're going to get in on a private name, that means it's not a publicly traded stock. So you can't go and type in the ticker. You have to go to somewhere like Start Engine or one of these other places to be able to get shares. It's super illiquid. Sometimes there are big requirements involved. It's a pain. But being able to have a tokenized version that essentially tracks how much people want to buy it is huge. And just like with commission-free trading, I think this probably evolves the brokerage space. I think other brokerages are going to have to keep up with this. And that's just a lot of reasons for Hood to be up.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, unbelievable platform. Got to give them all the credit in the world and what they allow people to be able to trade and everything else. It's really been remarkable to watch that whole thing. We've got some sports in front of us, but I think we got a pretty fun video that we were going to throw up there as well beforehand. It's always fun to do that. John always sends these crazy videos every single day, and he just drives Jared and I crazy. But this one's worthwhile watching for sure. Look at this big kid. That's what the focus is, this young man.
6'6", 250, and he's only a sophomore in high school. He's the #1 tight end in Texas.
Like
he's already bigger than Gronk. He's got over 40 D1 offers, and he's been living in the weight room packing on muscle.
Justin, this kid is a
His name
sophomore.
is Zane Rowe. He plays for Denton Geyer High School, and most colleges want him as a defensive end.
Zane Rowe beats his man around the edge, and he's going to force a fumble on the quarterback.
He looks like a man-child.
He loves to lay the wood. And he's also friends with Gunna. He plays on Gunna's 7-on-7 team, and they just throw him the ball every time. Most recruiting sites have him listed as an edge rusher. They have him listed as a defensive
that kid can play whatever position he wants.
Just too on defense.
He just needs to be careful because if he's that young, he might get a hell of a lot bigger. He might beat himself out of being a tight end.
And in the spring game, they hit him on a bang 8, and he was not going to get taken down to the ground. He's going to hit him with a stiff arm. This is going to be a touchdown. He rarely gets taken down to the ground. He's too big.
This
kid loses his helmet trying
to tackle him. The athleticism of kids in football right now is at the highest level I have ever seen.
He's going to be their workhorse, and that's why he's in the weight room building that armor up for this fall. I wouldn't be surprised if Denton Geyer wins a few gold balls these next couple seasons. Let us know in the comments which college football team should pick him up. He's 6.
That's crazy.
That's a big kid, man. I mean, you know what? There are bigger kids out there, but his athleticism for his age and everything else, I mean, he's one of those guys that we call a freak. I mean, in a good way, in a really good way. He is a man-child and a freak and all the different things you'd want to put on there that are positive because he's very athletic for a guy that young. I mean, when you're a sophomore, maybe he's 16, maybe. But whatever, that's a young kid to me. All right, sticking with this college football. It's always been, we've lost a lot of the tradition in football, right? I mean, the Big Ten has more than 10 teams for people who don't know that. The ACC has teams that are actually all the way on to the West Coast, Cal and Stanford. You've got the SEC who's scooped up a bunch of different, schools over the last few years, Texas being one of the biggies, Oklahoma's another one. And, the list goes on. Except for one, the Pac-12. Now, the Pac-12, that used to be the Pac-10 when I was a kid getting recruited. And before that, they were the Pacific 8, the Pac-8. There were 8 teams. But they slowly, over the years, had added a little bit to it. But it was a very slow process. But I find it really, really interesting. And it's something that it's the Pac-12. But 2 years ago, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC, 4 of those teams, went over and decided they're going to go to the Big Ten. And then we had others go to the Big 12. They've gone everywhere. They were down to 2, Washington State and Oregon State. So the Big 12, you got to get rid of either the 12 or something. You got to just say Big 2. But they're back to working this thing out. But here's the fun thing. Every one of the schools that has now joined into what is called still the Pac-12 has a state as part of their name. So you've got Boise State, you've got Colorado State, you got Fresno State, Oregon State, Washington State, Utah State, San Diego State, and Texas State. So that's your grouping. And you're getting close to 12. You're not quite there yet. So I don't know what that truly means. Are they going to add up and try to get there? By the way, they also added Gonzaga, but they don't play football. So they will be part of the basketball, of course, and different other sports, but they don't have a football team at Gonzaga. So interesting to see how this whole thing has gone up. CBS seems to like it. They gave him a 5-year contract for TV and all the rest of it, football, basketball, all the different media rights that they do. It's really, really interesting to me. Now, is there any chance at all? Does Hawaii get that shot, man? I mean, that's my first Hawaii question. I got another one coming later, but what happens? What do you think? Should they do it, or is there somebody else, or what?
Yeah, I don't know why we don't. We got huge people out here who love football and rugby. It would make a ton of sense. There's no one to root for out here other than California. So it would make perfect sense to have a team out here. And just about the Pac-12, yeah, I think it's super cool how they're rebuilding from the ashes. TV deal is huge. I think Texas State is a huge get for the Pac-12, brings so much momentum, and obviously just what they really care about, the money. I mean, there's such a huge student body and just a very, very large audience for these guys. Last thing about our 6'6" friend, what I really, really respect, outside of the fact that he is a genetic freak, like maybe one of the people that we're about to talk about, is just the discipline that he's showing at such a young age. Whether we're trading options or whether you're on the field, I just think it's such a huge and very cool thing. Because I think for every guy like that, there's somebody that's born with the talent to be great, who just doesn't have the discipline to get in the gym every day or to practice their craft every day and to become truly that next level. Clearly, he's going to get there. I think that's really, really great for him.
Yeah, it's awesome. It absolutely is awesome. So it's all pretty exciting. I find the whole thing. And by the way, you mentioned Texas State. I think that was great that you did. They got 40,000 students there. I mean, you're talking about a massive university, and you know what? They've got a swagger to them, and I think they seem to be really, really excited. Everything I've seen on social media as well as on different sports sites, they are very, very excited to be finally part of that, Pac-12. So that's going to be pretty cool. All right, Major League Baseball's next. And here's the interesting thing. We talk about Ohtani all the time because of the fact that he is so special. The guy can throw the ball. He's a pitcher. He throws it over 100 miles an hour. He's already started. He's back doing that after being out for over a year. So that's pretty cool. He also does an amazing job stealing bases. He does an amazing job with the bat. He hits home runs, top 5 every year. He's absolutely amazing. Special guy. But there's another guy who's just as special. This guy, Aaron Judge, for the New York Yankees. Here's what he's doing so far this year. I mean, first of all, he's a monster. I think he's about 6'7" or something close to that, and 260, 270 pound guy. I mean, this guy, he could be playing tight end in the NFL right now, but why would he do that? He's making a hell of a lot more money, and he's not going to get beat up playing baseball. So I think he did the right thing. But that all being said, he's number 2 in home runs. He's got 30. He's also number 1 in batting average. So think about that, because very, very often the guys who are home run hitters, they're going to miss a lot too, right? So they're going for it. So they usually aren't the guys who are going to be up there with the batting average. Well, he is. So he's number 1 in batting average and number 2 in home runs, number 4 in RBIs with 67, and he's also number 1 with hits with 112. I mean, I don't know if there's a guy in baseball. I can't think of anybody in the last 20 or 30 years who has those sort of numbers. I mean, there are guys who have been great. There's no doubt about it. Guys who steal base, guys do this, do that. They do this with the bat. But if you're a home run guy, you're a home run guy. If you're a batting average guy, you tend to be a batting average guy. You probably hit a lot less home runs. So that's what makes this guy so special, is what he's able to do there when he's up at the plate. And his team, the New York Yankees, they're the number 1 in the American League East. So as far as divisions go, pretty interesting. So here's my question for you, another Hawaii question. Why does Hawaii not have either an NFL team, an NBA team, a Major League Baseball team? I get the hockey. I get that totally. But those other 3, And actually, even hockey could potentially be there, but I don't know. That makes it a little bit rougher. Obviously, they're in Las Vegas, so they could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be cold, in other words. But and by the way, Minnesota, which is where I live, went to high school and college and all the rest of it. We had the Minnesota North Stars, and then they turned into the Wild. We lost a team. The state of hockey, Minnesota, didn't have a team for a couple of years until they brought back a team with the Wild, right? Which is crazy. You know how many times we've won the Stanley Cup?
Well,
Tampa's got like 3 or 4. Now Florida's got 2 or 3, and the state of hockey's still sitting at 0. It's really sad because this is a hockey town, hockey state, all the rest of it. But they just can't manage to be able to get it over the hump and actually win that whole thing. So what is Hawaii? What would be the best fit, do you think? Like what sport maybe is, if you could only pick one of those pro sports? I still think Hawaii deserves to have something if they want. By the way, my uncle had the Hawaiians of the World Football League back in the 70s. He was the general manager of that team. So I know they support people. I know they support football. They do a great job with college football. So why not the NFL? Maybe it's Major League Baseball. Who do you think should be there?
Yeah, anecdotally, a lot of jerseys walking around out here for sure. Mostly football. I think give us a football team, we'll be happy. That's what I would say. I think hockey probably a long shot. I don't know if there's a ton of people out here who are super interested in hockey, but football just makes perfect sense. And I don't know why we don't have one. But we should. And yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Well, I'll volunteer to be the general manager of the Hawaiian football team if the NFL ever decides to go out there, because I'll tell you what, I think it's a perfect spot. It really is. And think about that as a player. Now, you've got all the flying and all that. We all know that. But you know what? If you're flying to Europe and you're flying down to South America and you're flying to all these other places and you're trying to establish maybe a team in London, into the future or wherever else that they might be picking, I don't know why you wouldn't go to Hawaii. I mean, what the hell? What's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you very much for joining me today. It's awesome. You always do an outstanding job. It's great. I hope you have a great 4th of July and everything. We got a half day tomorrow to remind everybody we are not doing the show. It's a half day, so the show's not going to happen. And then we got Friday off, so we won't see you till Monday. And Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.